Hello everyone and welcome to topic 3, who are the entrepreneurs? And in this particular session we're going to be looking at the traits and behavioural types of entrepreneurs. So our learning outcome for this session is that by the end of the session you will be aware of the different perspectives on the person and character of the entrepreneur from different disciplines. So there are two main approaches in understanding entrepreneurship at the level of the entrepreneur. First of all, we can talk about personality traits. When we talk about traits, we're talking about dispositions. These exhibit certain responses in different situations. So for example, temperament, motives, ideals of self-efficacy or self-belief. Alternatively, we could approach understanding entrepreneurship in terms of the entrepreneur's behaviour. So here we're talking about behavioural typologies. These are based on the way that entrepreneurs behave. These are attempts to develop groups of characteristics that describe entrepreneurs. Now, considerable problems exist with both, although behavioural approaches have become more influential as time has gone on. So let's start with the trait approach and let's look at this in a little bit more detail. Let's take some examples that have arisen from research. First of all, we can talk about risk-taking. A clear implication here is that entrepreneurs are more of a risk-taking personality. They should be willing to bear risk more than others. Secondly, a need for achievement. Now, this arises from McClelland's work in 1961. Yes, I know it's early. He argues that certain personality types are more highly motivated to seek achievement. So for these individuals, money is only an achievement indicator rather than an end itself. So entrepreneurs need to seek achievement per se. Thirdly, a locus of control. This is after work by Rotter in 1966, and again, or more early work. Basically argues that a person believing that it is all depending on me. This refers to an internal locus of control. And the stronger this sense, the stronger the entrepreneurial drive, or so the argument goes. The fourth one may surprise you a little bit, and that revolves around deviancy. Ketz and De Vries in 1977, they see entrepreneurism as a reaction to low self-esteem and a desire for control of the world. Also may be linked to negative experiences as a child. And finally, creativity and opportunism. The evidence does suggest here that entrepreneurs are more creative and innovative than others in the general population. Now, there are other examples from the research, and this is just 5. However, it shouldn't surprise you that there are some criticisms of this approach. Peter Drucker, writing in 1985, says, "Entrepreneurship is not a personality trait. In 30 years I have seen people of the most diverse personalities and temperaments perform well in entrepreneurial challenges. To be sure, people who need certainty are unlikely to make good entrepreneurs, but such people are unlikely to do well in a host of other activities as well." And Aldridge, writing in 1999, says that research on personality traits seems to have reached an empirical dead end. But the trait approach has enjoyed a revival in recent years. You can see here the results of some work by Rausch and Fries in 2007. They collated several startup studies and identified the following traits. I'm not going to read all these out to you, but if you like, press pause here so you can read through. Reading through that list, it may have been quicker to ask you what isn't a trait of entrepreneurs. But there has been a reinterest in traits and entrepreneurship within the research community. And there's growing evidence to reflect contemporary changes in enterprise activity. So, for example, in Turkey, personality characteristics were linked to a successful social enterprise. Self-efficacy has been reintroduced as a trait, and also narcissism, how much we love ourselves. But let's summarise and conclude what Rausch and Fries were saying. They said that we found that business owners' personality traits were positively related to business creation and business success. We found additional traits that are important predictors of entrepreneurial behaviour: innovativeness, proactive personality, generalised self-efficacy, stress tolerance, need for autonomy, and internal locus of control were all related to entrepreneurial behaviour. Therefore, we can say that the entrepreneurship research needs to take personality as seriously as research as employees' personality has done. Of course there are problems, and we need to discuss these a little bit. First of all, most studies of this type were based on US entrepreneurs, and it's not clear that in Europe or other parts of the world the same type of character traits would be evident. Most of these studies are also based on successful entrepreneurs. It isn't clear, for example, whether these attributes are the cause of entrepreneurship or whether they are learnt or they emerge during the process of becoming a successful entrepreneur. Very few entrepreneurs possess all of these attributes, or if they do, they're combined in very different ways. And how important are the different attributes and their combinations? We'll discuss that point later on. For now, though, I'd like you to press pause and to reflect on the following question. What are the strengths and weaknesses of the trait approach? Okay, so let's take a look now at the behavioural approach and contrast this to the trait approach. Now, the behavioural approach is sometimes called the type approach. And we're going to start off by looking at some work by Smith, who was writing in 1967. Early, again, I know, but it is super important. So Smith was identifying 3 different entrepreneurial types. First of all, he identified that craftsmen. Now, craftsmen are loners who value his or her independence. They have limited social and commercial links. As a second entrepreneurial type, Smith was writing about opportunists. Opportunists build on their considerable self-confidence. They have an outgoing personality, and they're more concerned with markets than actual production. And finally, he identified inventors. Now, inventors are more of an intermediate type, combination of both craftsmen and opportunists. In personality, like the craftsman type, but like the opportunist type, is pushed into entrepreneurship by the desire to see his or her invention exploited and used. Okay, so fast forward a few years and we can see what Shell et al. Has to say about the subject. Like Smith, Shell et al. Were more concerned about understanding entrepreneurship in terms of entrepreneurial types, and they drew a 4-way distinction from their research between entrepreneurs, quasi-entrepreneurs, administrators, and caretakers. Now, the extreme types they saw in their model were the caretaker type. This has little strategic focus. Caretakers have little desire to grow or develop the business. At the other end of the spectrum, though, they identify the entrepreneur, who sees the business as a key activity in life, as a strong drive or passion to develop their company. It's pretty obvious, yeah? The distinction between these types has been hugely influential, though, and has guided much recent thinking in the literature. Okay, so why don't we try and have a go at this point at summarising what we know so far about the trait approach and the type or behavioural approach. So first of all, we can say that both types of research have been influential in entrepreneurship research, with traits research having something of a resurgence at the moment. Now, in Learn, in one of your folders for this topic, I put a paper there that explores the link between video games and entrepreneurship. Read it if you like, but it's not essential for the course. Secondly, we also know that key attributes emerge and appear rather different for growth and startups. They also appear rather different depending on the context. And finally, context also seems to be important, with traits predisposing individuals to certain behaviours which are stimulated by their environment or not. So it's time for a task, I think. What I'd like you to do is go to the following website, www.gettotest.net. And I'd like you to complete the entrepreneurship test there. Look at your results, and after you've looked at your results, reflect on the following questions. Do your results accurately describe you? What are the problems and limitations with the test? And what do these problems suggest as implications for research trying to capture what it is that makes an entrepreneur?